I love you,
So
honey.
sweet. So sweet. I hope this is working. Is it working? Yes?
Yeah.
Good? Okay. Thank you so much, Nicole. Awesome. Oh, yeah, it is really an honor to be here. I really am such a huge fan of Nicole's and the whole team doing this really important work that you are all part of. It's an incredible movement that's just so important for our society and for each of us individually. And I am a coach, as Nicole said. And so I think what I like to do with my clients is to challenge them. And I work with lots of founders of startups here in Silicon Valley, making, I think, really important technology like all of you are. And we're all here because we love transformative tech. That's why we are here working together and building things. And the challenge, though, is as you're building your tech and a company around it, can you make a company that is also as transformative? Because we can't just expect to have the same kind of business and expect a different result than we get today from conventional businesses, right? Everybody here and nobody around the world starts a business with this idea that it's going to cause any harm to the planet or to people. And transformative tech is here for people and it's for all of humanity. So you better have a business that matches that, right? We can't just keep doing the same thing. So we have this idea, this term we call evolutionary business, which is a open source framework, a diverse set of practices for individual development, interpersonal and culture development, and new systems, structures, and processes to allow business to be really what it's meant to be, of being of service to the world, right? Of helping society in all ways. That's why we start companies, and we want them to stay that way, but something happens between the founding and maybe going public that is very difficult. So we like to help our companies we work with and all of you scale without losing your soul. We think it's really important. And the good news is there's a really broad movement that you're all part of. We are all part of in this direction already. It's great. We see it everywhere nowadays, more and more, and we just need to keep helping it. We see it with meditation at companies or coaching, right? Every founder in Silicon Valley now has a coach, which is great. And coaching is widespread at Google and Facebook and Slack and many other companies, and that's fantastic. It's a really big move. Culture development. Culture is something people talk about now. The Netflix culture deck is passed around endlessly. If you haven't seen it, look at it. It's really inspiring. B corporations, right? Benefit corps, B corps. Great to see thousands of companies moving this way. Patagonia, of course, is probably my all-time favorite. And it's so important to have alternative structures like this or ways of thinking about business like we do with that. And even large corporations like Walmart, they're not going to publicize this, but they're actually changing out their fleet because they really care about doing something better for the planet. It's not going to save them any money, and they're not advertising this because they don't think their consumers care about it. I think they should, because I think they would or they should care about it. Or Amazon, raising their minimum wages. Of course, that's controversial, but they did that because they chose to. You might say, well, it was a marketing ploy. I don't think so. I think they actually think it's the right thing to do. And more we're going to see this kind of movement. But unfortunately, it's still not enough, right? It's just not enough. We have to do a lot more, and we need to really work together. We're at the very beginnings of this. And that's why, today, a company like Etsy, which was a B Corp, and of course really cares about the people who are making crafts that they're selling for, had to get rid of that B Corp status when they went public because investors were too worried about that structure. So again, we're early in this, and and even then they had some publicized internal challenges around culture and leadership. So they got part of it right, but they had trouble with another part. Or DaVita, a big healthcare company you might have heard of recently because of the proposition here in California, famous for its culture, for its leadership. They just invest tons in their people. It's a very positive place to work for many people in a very difficult industry of kidney dialysis. And yet, there's a real shadow there also around the culture and it being cult-like, but even more kind of worrisome is how much they spend time lobbying to make sure their fees are high enough for what they do. And it's in the interest of their business, which they could justify. It's a business, it's a public corporation. That's what they're supposed to be like, right? But to what detriment? So we need to do more. I don't think Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook to end up creating the amount of divisiveness and hate that now exists, thanks to, unfortunately, to a platform. It's for connection, right? But something happened there along the way. There's tons of coaching going on at Facebook. So what we know is we need something more. And the reason we're having these problems is because there's a fundamental clash right now between two different worldviews. One is the individualistic, rationalistic one that started in the age of enlightenment and has gone from then till now, with science and invention, with commerce, so much great stuff, right? Corporations started, and it's still the predominant worldview of, like, if I'm successful, then everybody can be successful. You can too. And yes, there's truth. There's been a lot of good to that, of course. I'm not saying anything negative. In the last 50, 60 years, another worldview that's more relational and ecological has come on. That's led to, of course, the human potential movement, to the green movement. And those two see each other in a lot of times as not being able to be compatible. But many of us know that's not true. In fact, we try to build some of these things into our companies. That's why we have sustainability, why we do coaching, why we have cultures we care about. So we're trying to put the pieces together, but they still aren't quite fitting. And it's because it's very difficult. We need to, as Ken Wilber says, we need to transcend and include all of the different parts of ourselves and of our evolutionary history. And so in our work at Evolution, we follow Wilber's model of integral theory, which you may know about, and we've kind of made our own simplified version of it. Hopefully I can maybe just switch the slide for me. This doesn't seem like it's working. Try again. There we go. So we've taken integral theory and have a couple of ways of presenting it. The first one is we see organizations as having three dimensions: I, we, it. And that the I dimension is about the individual. Each individual, especially leaders, but really anybody in a company, their own experience of how they show up, how they feel, their values and beliefs, their purpose, and how much they know themselves, right? As a leader, if you don't know yourself, it is going to be really hard for you to be able to sustain your vision and your purpose of why you're creating your business, right? And really, everybody in the company should have that clarity of knowledge about themselves and what they're doing and why, right? So that individual aspect of showing up. And by the way, if you're tired, you're not going to do so well, right? So there's all sorts of simple examples. But nobody creates a business individually. We have to do it together, jointly, right? So the we dimension there is it talks about the interpersonal dynamics between people, how we work together, how we coordinate and communicate, how we handle commitments, because that is really what a lot of is about in a business, is the network of commitments. And so we have to work together well. We need solidarity and trust to be successful. But again, just like the I dimension, we don't really spend a lot of time talking about these things or thinking about them at work. And that's a big mistake, because they are equally important to the it dimension, the impersonal aspects of a business. Everything from whatever product it is or service you're creating, to your projects and your processes, your marketing, you name it. It's all the things we spend all of our time at work talking about and working on and stressing over. And if you're a founder, you know that's really hard, because there's so much to do, right? It's so hard, not just as a founder, but to create a business that's sustainable, that lasts, that succeeds. Unfortunately, it's not enough. We got to do more than that. We need to think about new systems, structures, processes that can really sustain us and support humanity, because at the end of the day, that is what we're talking about. We're not talking about business as something separate from life. They're integrated, they're combined. So we have to put the pieces together, and the it dimension needs to support the human dimensions. And humans should be working with companies that they really find they can get complete, connection with. So if these are the three dimensions on an x-axis, the y-axis of this model is what we call be, do, have, three levels. And what this is really saying is that if you want to make a fundamental change, a sustainable, or solve a complex problem, you can look deep. And if you're thinking about yourself, kind of individually, and wanting to really know yourself, you need to start at your core, your essence, who you are, right? Your purpose. Why are you here? Why does your business exist? Things like this. Your beliefs, right? I believe that my technology has the power of doing something really important, and that also I can make a successful business with it. We can have both of those beliefs that are true, and many others, and our values, like what's most important to me: honesty, integrity, accountability. And also really important is our shadow, the part that Jung describes as the parts of ourselves we hide, repress, and deny. The shadow is something that is not talked about nearly enough, but it's in all of us. We all have it. And we can't get rid of it, but we just need to keep it in light, to keep it in front of us so we know that it exists, we can get support. And that's the piece that often gets in the way, frankly, from our doing what we say we want to do, living our life in integrity with our values or our purpose. So knowing shadow is key, and you have to go within deeply to do that, right? So as a founder, as a leader of a company, all of us, like knowing these parts of ourselves, and there's many other aspects of us at the kind of B level that we really should get to know. Our perspectives, our mental models, whether we have a growth mindset or it's fixed, et cetera. And with that, then we can do something great, and we can keep sustaining it. Bead is really great for solving breakdowns, like why did something happen? The Facebook example that I mentioned earlier. You know, as I said, I don't think that was what Mark set out to do. They have now a situation where, of course, there's a lack of trust in the company, where unfortunately, they've created a situation in their platform that they did not want to create. Well, if we look at this, that's what they have today. So what did they do to get there or not do? And the answer to that is that they sold data to pretty much, I guess, anybody who would pay. Maybe they wouldn't say that exactly, but it made sense because they're business and they want to make money, and they need to. But to what end, right? And that goes to the B level, their beliefs, and whether or not they believe that they can both be a business that's good for society and successful as a business, especially as a public company. And this is a very challenging thing, right, to answer questions like this. But I think it's entirely possible, and it's imperative, I think, actually for all of us in the world today, right? We cannot keep going the way we're going, given that we have, 20 years before climate change is irreversible, or we have such divisions in our society. So many people are suffering. You're creating tech for that, so you better think about that when you create your business and who you bring in as investors, how you structure your company, right? So if you have a vision instead for a completely different kind of company that's sustainable over the long term, right, that has customers that love you and your products and want to bring other people into your company, like, say, Patagonia is like, or employees or other workers in your company who are incredibly fulfilled and delighted, partners that are thriving and are very aligned with you so that they don't, they do business the same way, communities in which you exist that are really healthy, then if that's where you're starting, then what behaviors and actions should you take to get there, right? And you should figure this out for yourself based on who you are at your core, but probably they're going to include being honest and being vulnerable and transparent and accountable, right? Those kind of behaviors as leaders and maybe others, as well as in terms of what actions to take, how do you create a company that really is of service to each and all of its stakeholders, right? What do you need to do to ensure that you're successful in doing that? Thinking about your business from that way, you might need a different kind of mechanism for accounting than just a P&L. P&L is great. It's very important to manage, your operations and make sure that you're not losing money so you can stay in business and be sustainable. But what else do you need? You need something else to look at your other stakeholder groups that you're trying to serve. And some kind of a holistic scorecard, probably. At Evolution, to help us be accountable to doing this, we're starting to experiment with what we're calling a stakeholder council, representatives of each of our stakeholders to help give us feedback on whether they feel served and also whether we're living our values and in alignment with our purpose. And that can be in addition to a board of directors. And we can give that stakeholder council ability to publish their findings if we're really courageous, and the ability to respond to those publicly. And think about having that kind of transparency. Imagine, pick your company, Google, Amazon, Uber, whoever has that kind of model of feedback. Don't you think things would be different for them? I think so. I think they'd be much more aligned with their true sense of purpose. And we can all hope. And I'm not, I'm an optimist, obviously. And I don't think every business can be like this, but I think that every business could be like it, because at the end of the day, if you do run your business this way and operate it this way, you are going to have the happiest customers, people working for you, partners, etc. And we're going to have a much better chance of having a planet that we can still live on, and our society is going to be overall better, because business is the place of change, right? This is the vehicle. It's not in the universities. Great science is happening there, but it's impacting the world much more broadly through business. And all of us spend time there, all of us buy from businesses, et cetera. So we have to be that change in the world. And that's the opportunity. So, continuously looking and thinking about those three dimensions of I, we, and it, and these levels, and getting down in the core is really what's necessary to kind of create a true evolutionary business that can continue to just sustain and support over a long time. So, in closing here, and I think I have time for a couple questions maybe, I'd like to ask all of you, as again, I started with a challenge, I'll challenge you again here to think about and take a moment to think about one action you can take over the next 1 or 2 weeks, really, close time, that's going to support you and your business on this journey, right? Because you have to do it. You have to continuously take action, whatever that looks like in terms of learning or supporting others, giving support, getting support for yourself. And I urge you to, tell somebody else what you're going to do, because that will help you be accountable. As a coach, that's something we always think about. Like, make it an action that you can definitely take, a commitment. Tell somebody else about the commitment, ask for support if you need it. A couple ideas. My colleagues and I are running a workshop tomorrow here at 5 on this, so you can really up-level your leadership. That's a great place to come. That's a good commitment to make. We have coaching circles. We do a lot of other work. Come to our website and you can check it out and see how we can support you. But mostly I'm just very excited to be on this journey with all of you, because we are all in this together. I really don't like standing up on a stage and talking to people. I much prefer being with you and working together to build something. And that's what we are here to do. That's what I'm here to do. All of us are here to do that with each other, because we must if we want to be successful at this. So I'm happy to take a couple questions. I think I have a couple minutes. So if anybody has one, you can, I guess, raise your hand and I'll call you. Yes, you want to stand up so everybody, or I guess I can hear you. Go ahead, thanks.
Do you have something written about your philosophy and your approach to business?
Thank you. Do we have anything written about this? Yeah, our website has some information on it. We're in the works of putting something more complete together. There is, I think, some YouTube content from the accelerator that might be visible that we might be able to share with people. But I think the answer is, integral theory is a really great place if you're ready to kind of get into some depth about these concepts from Ken Wilber. Spiral dynamics is, by Claire Graves, and Beck and Cowan have written a lot about it. Talks about this fundamental clash in worldviews that we need to transcend and include. So, that's a basis for a lot of our work. And there will be more we'll have coming out soon. But if you go to our website, we have a lot of articles. Yes? Yep.
That, I'm not quoting it, but something like capitalism is broken and we need to invent a new system.
Exactly. 100%. Harari, if you haven't read 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, one of Nicole's favorite people, I think, read that book. It is incredible. And yes, he says capitalism is broken. We need to invent something else. I agree. I don't know if we can call it whatever we want. We need something that's going to help connect us better and be sustainable and not be like a means to some, get rich over here and then give our money away. Oh, we're just increasing profit and shareholder value. That's what a business is for. These things aren't working, right? So I think 100% agree with that. I also would like to be like him and meditate 2 hours a day. That sounds good. I'm a little too busy right now. One more question? Yes?
Are you finding these technologies are usable in the kind
oh, are these technologies usable in the coaching? Yeah, I'm really interested in that, actually. We've been really thinking about this a lot. And, I do think everybody deserves a coach, and how to scale coaching to everybody is a really interesting question. I think technology hopefully can help with that. And, that said, it's a very, especially the way we believe coaching should be done, which is very close and personal. It's maybe take a while for AI to help us tons with that, but I think it's possible. Yeah, and certainly for people to do their own work, right? A lot of the coaching we do is to help people, recognize themselves, to a lot of times just ground. Certainly we teach a lot of meditation, so a lot of technology here can help with that. I think giving feedback and support around that, and yeah, it's a great thing that's happening. That's part of the reason we're here, is because we just believe it's so important for people to develop themselves and learn about themselves and get support. So, yeah. Good? Okay, thank you so much. Look forward to being on this journey with all you.